This is one of those games that I've just known about for a long time. I don't remember how I found out about it, but I'm assuming it was some sort of E3 trailer or something from Sony Gamescom. I don't know. However, I know about it. I've played it about 4 times and loved it each moment, and now it's about time that I talked about the hit indie title, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Our story opens up with a little kid praying at a grave and dwelling upon his mother drowning when they were out on a boat in the ocean. It even shows the kid struggle to save his mom and fail because he's too weak. Yep, it's going to be that kind of game, folks. His older brother calls him over, and it shows that their father is in a wheelbarrow and deathly ill. And this is where you take control of the two brothers, and where you either love the game's controls, or you fight with them so much that you want to just throw your controller. So, essentially, each brother is mapped to an analog stick, older brother for the left and younger brother for the right. The L2 and R2 buttons are the action buttons matching to the corresponding brother, and L1 and R1 control the camera. Each brother has special actions that only they can do, such as the older brother is strong enough to pull levers, and the younger brother is small enough to fit between bars. In some instances, you need both of them at the same time, like when you have to rotate this lever on both sides. The awesome thing about this is that the game is technically co-op because you can have another person take control of a brother and you just share the controller. Or you can play it alone and control each brother with your own 2 thumbs. The differences between the brothers is not just in the control either, but in personality too. The older brother is a lot more respectful towards people and more trustworthy, while the younger brother is a little shit sometimes, pranking people and not as trusting towards people, especially strange women. The little brother is more musically talented though and is way better with animals. The whole journey of this game is to find a cure for your dad, and you find out from the doctor that there is a special tree far from where their house is, and like every other journey, it will be dangerous. The brothers agree to go, and the first thing that they come across on their perilous journey is the town bully and a dog. Ooh. Okay, but in all seriousness, when you leave the town and reach the outskirts, you come across a troll, and the brothers approach him cautiously and befriend him, so that he can carry the brothers to a location where his love is trapped by a giant guard. They steal the key from the guard and unlock the cage to save the troll. The troll then leaves the brothers, to which the little brother is like, "Hey, what the hell?" And all the complaining alerts the guard, and now you have to fight him. This guard is considered a boss fight, and I might as well go into the boss fights now. There are a total of 2 boss fights in this game, and I wouldn't even consider them bosses, just tougher enemies that you need to figure out a puzzle to defeat. I won't spoil how to defeat each boss because figuring it out for yourself is pretty fun. After you defeat him by trapping him, you have to escort the troll across some puzzles in the caves, but then, oh no! The guard has escaped and now you have to actually fight him and kill him. With the guard's demise, you can now be picked up by the trolls and you get to see how much they love each other, and to be honest, I find it very cute. Continuing on, the brothers find themselves in a creepy dark forest, to which there are wolves who will kill the brothers if they get too far in the dark. As they continue along the path, you find out how dark this game can really get, because there are people hanging themselves within a few chapters of the game. After the forest, you come across this grave tender who points you in the right direction, but things go awry when their path crumbles beneath them and they fall into a ravine and get split up while they head for a waterfall. The little brother lands on a rock and the older brother tells him to grab the branch nearby, and at this point I'm going to stop using little and big brother on how to refer to them. They have names, and the older brother is Naya and the little brother is Nai. While Nai is on the branch and being moved by Naya, these creepy and I mean really unsettling creatures come from out of the trees and just look scary. After they avoid all of the monsters, it doesn't even matter because the last one cuts the branch that Nai is holding onto and he falls into the water. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but because he watched his mother drown, Nai is deathly afraid of water and can't swim, so Naya jumps in after him to save his little bro. After waking up, the game starts to look a little weird, with the camera being all wavy and all of the voices are echoey, almost like the brothers are hallucinating. When they walk a little bit further, they see this giant woman who almost looks like a goddess, and I think you're supposed to assume that it's their mother, but while you're too busy thinking about that, Naya starts beating Nai up and strangling him. But then when Nai wakes up, you realize that none of this is real and he was just having a really bad nightmare. As you continue on, there's this very specific person you can easily miss to the right of this path, and you can easily save him from hanging himself. And if you're questioning why he's hanging himself, well, you can just look at this completely burned down house, and he's also alone, so he probably has no family. I wanted to bring this up because I've spoken with people who have completely missed this part, and since they never saved the guy, he actually died. On a brighter note, there's a section a little bit later where the mountains are too steep and too spacious, so the solution for this? Mountain goats. The brothers get to ride on mountain goats, and all the music gets so happy and it's just a blissful experience. At the top of this mountain, there's a scientist who has a paraglider, which the brothers use to fly over to a castle, and the castle is by far my favorite section because of the rope. Essentially, the rope platforming is when the brothers tie a rope to each other's waists and use each other as something to swing off of. It doesn't last very long, but I always have a blast in this section. After you actually get inside the castle, you discover that everything is gigantic here and can be used as platforms to reach a snow owl that can give you a lift for saving it. It is injured, however, so it can only fly so far, and after it lands, it collapses. This new area is definitely one of my favorites because of all of the interpretation that you can make, because this whole area is a forgotten battlefield with a bunch of dead giants, and all of them are in the way, so the only way through is to move them and disrupt the dead, which is always unsettling. While you're going through, you can see something happening at the very bottom of the hill in the distance, and when you get down there you find out that it's actually a group of cultists trying to sacrifice a woman, which the brothers save without question, and they run off together to a snowy village. While in the village, they come across an invisible monster with big feet, so you can assume that it's a giant. The monster chases them, and it's too heavy to cross the bridge, and it collapses under him, and he dies. At this point, you start to question, because while the brothers are struggling to get across certain areas, this woman can super jump. She also hugs and kisses Naya, and Nai, like the little kid that he is, he's disgusted by this, and when they follow her across this specific bridge, this is my other favorite area because of how friggin' beautiful it is and gives you an end of game feel. The woman leads the brothers to a cave which Nai is not too certain about, but Naya tells him to stop being a little bitch and go through. As they walk through the tunnel, you can notice some people cocooned in what looks like a spiderweb, but you can't turn around because the woman is behind you and blocking your path from leaving. Then the inevitable happens. The woman climbs up the wall, turns off the lights, knocks out the brothers and puts them in a cocoon together and drags them off to God knows where. This is the second boss fight, and it's actually pretty cool, but like I said earlier, I'm not going to spoil how to defeat her. However, since I'm talking about the story in depth, this is a huge spoiler alert because we're near the ending. Okay, let's talk about the scene that made a lot of people, including myself, cry. When you defeat the Spider-Woman, Naya gets stabbed by one of her pincers and is bleeding out pretty badly. Thankfully, the tree that they were looking for this whole journey is very nearby, and at the top of it is a pool of water, and it has the elixir of life in it. So Nai gets some and comes back to see his older brother collapse on the ground, dying. Nai tries his hardest to give the water to his brother, but it only works on sick people, not the dead. And realizing this, Nai breaks down into tears over his brother's body. After he's done crying, Nai makes his brother a grave, and the player actually has to drag Naya into the hole, and they have to fill it too. While Nai prays to his brother's grave, the snow owl shows up and gives Nai a ride home, but not right in front of the door, because there's one last thing that he has to do. This part of the game seems to get a lot of players with confusion, because everything Nai did with Naya at the beginning of the game, such as pulling levers, swimming, and jumping high, Nai now has to do it all alone, because he has to go save his dad. I remember getting stuck at this part because with Naya being gone, no one thinks to use the L2 button anymore. But when you do, you can hear Naya saying his brother's name, and when that happens, Nai faces his fears and overcomes all odds, and it's such an inspirational gameplay moment. Nai makes it home and gives the elixir to the doctor, and then because of everything he just did, he is completely exhausted and falls asleep. When the game fades back in, it shows Nai skipping rocks at the shore, and the last thing Nai has to do is get up the hill and see how his dad is doing, and finds him at the mother's grave, and also Naya's grave now. This is where the dad breaks down and begins to cry, and the game goes to the credits. I told you, it's a sad game. This game is one of those games that is an experience, and since I love video games for their story, this is definitely up there in my favorite games of all time. Maybe in like my top 20. The gameplay is a hit or miss because of the way it controls, but I personally love it. The puzzles are not overly challenging, but they're still fun to me, and I honestly do think that you should give this game a chance. Anyway, I hope you all have an amazing day, or night, whenever you're watching, and as always, take care.